We're live. Hello, everybody. Welcome. It's Friday, 11:03. Oh, no, it's not. It's 1:03 p.m. We changed the time. That's right. Welcome to our first ever afternoon community forum out of our channel. Thank you so much. So with me today, we have Bob slash Borgarm, Borgtoe, Borghand. We have Ishan back after a while. Disruptively unoriginal. I love that. And then for the first time ever on these community forums, we have Mimi. Mimi, welcome on. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's a pleasure.
Thank you very much. I'm always trying everyone to have more women on, so I guess I have to do this. I have to
I
lead
love
as
it.
an example.
I love it. Well, you're representing them extremely well, and I cannot wait to speak with you today. So thank you so much for coming on. Really, really appreciate you making the time. So we'll do our usual thing. We'll go. We'll give you guys a couple updates to start. For those that are not familiar with this format, this is a format we've been having on the channel for quite a while now. And something we started recently is that we're half of the earnings that come in from these community forums. We take and we just give it to our community, the sort of this Farzad Misbahi community that we're building. And then our community decides what to do with those funds. So if you are interested in joining the channel, consider doing that, knowing that you'll have an ability to decide where these funds go. So this is just something cool. And we're starting to collect a pretty nice piggy bank here. So, and then let's go ahead and do a quick update, Bob, from your end. Not legal advice, brand new channel that has come on board. He covers legal proceedings around the world of Tesla and other things related to Tesla. Give us your latest update from your end, and then we'll dig into a mega thread for Tesla that is actually has a lot of information. So go for it, Richard. Bob.
Yes,
Sorry.
yeah, that's okay. I know you forget my name. Yeah, so quickly, I'm just updating people on MMTLP. That's the naked short issue that also affected Tesla. It's ongoing. This occurred, the last transaction again was December 8th. People are still sitting almost 3 months after with unsettled positions, and there continues to be people who are in financial despair and acting upon it. And it's really a dreadful situation. So keep an ear out for MMTLP, and also be aware of naked shorting as an issue, because it affects every stock, it affects every retail trader, and it affects Tesla. And then again, in Elon's last trial where he testified, he talked about shorting as the cause of the decline in price of Tesla stock. So let's keep aware and keep an awareness. And thank you for letting me bring this up, Farzad.
Of course, yeah. And if you hear Bob has a new voice, it's because he's got a new mic, and he sounds just so professional now. He's a YouTuber officially, so man, it's great. Let's go ahead and kick it off with this Twitter thread. Producer wife, my wonderful. By the way, we got to meet some of the members of the community at Wednesday in Clive. I met Rodman and Hans in person. My God, just a couple sweethearts. We both, producer and I, both met them. My God, and everybody else in the Tesla community. Just so many great people. But let's go ahead and pull up that thread when you get a chance, babe. Some new information has come through, and this actually, it looks like Matthew is going to be joining Herbert later today to cover this in more detail. But this is from Matthew Donegan Ryan, one of the very few retail investors that made it over to the Investor Day on Wednesday, and he's got some new information to share with us. Do go check him out at Matthew DR, which I'm assuming stands for his initials. Exclusive Tesla. I spoke with Tom Zhu after Investor Day presentation, and he shared key information that is not known until now. For those that are not aware, Tom Zhu, it was the previous leader of that Shanghai project, is now appears to be in charge of global, essentially factory rollouts and production for the company from the vehicle perspective. And he says, I'm convinced he will be Tesla's next CEO after Elon Musk. He's charismatic, succinct, incredibly intelligent, and acts with great sense of urgency. He will be our Tim Cook. But the thread is really what's the most important. So let's go ahead and scroll down and highlight some of the things he said. Number one, the Gen 3 platform will be built in Mexico first. Then they will copy and paste production to other gigafactories. So that's well known and an assumption. So let's go to the next one. Number two. The first Gen 3 vehicle will roll off the production line in 18 to 24 months, which is an interesting data point because they talked about they're aiming to get the factory up and running in about 9 months, or trying to beat Giga Shanghai's 9 months from breaking ground to commission. It looks like there will be an additional, call it, 12 to whatever X number of months to actually get a car out. I asked if the Gen 3 will be painted or stainless steel. He smirked and said paint is expensive. So that's an interesting bit of information. Let's go to the next one. Giga Mexico will be built at the same time as another Giga. So that's very interesting. And it seems like there might be another announcement. Let's go to the next one. All Gigafactory architecture, design, and construction is done in-house. So that made a lot of sense and par for the course, vertical integration. Let's go to the next one. Shanghai ramped faster than Austin, Berlin because Shanghai copied Fremont's production, and the Austin, Berlin factories had to figure out the structural pack. So kind of some context as to why Shanghai was able to move so quickly. The benchmark for rolling Model Ys off the production line is 45 seconds. Current times is 37 seconds in China, 55 seconds in Berlin, and 75 seconds in Austin. So Austin needs to pick it up, but that's a very good little bit of information there for us to understand. China is twice as fast as Austin. That's fascinating. Midnight Cherry Red and Quicksilver paint cannot be produced in Austin's paint shop, and there are no plans to change that. And that gives me a very helpful data point on how to conceptualize this for other vehicles. Go to the next one. We will see more proactive communication soon. Tesla now has country-specific Twitter handles and comms teams in Asia. They will roll out this strategy to Europe and North America. So fascinating bit of information there. Let's go to the next one. This one's pretty fascinating. Tesla China is actively working with local Chinese regulators to approve use of FSD in China. Same policy for all manufacturers, not just Tesla. And then he wraps up the thread with, I also have unbelievable news about the Cybertruck that I heard from Tesla execs. Follow me if you're into that kind of thing, as I'll share the info soon. So some additional tidbits there. And it looks like the Cybertruck piece, Herbert will be able to announce today on his channel. So if you don't follow Herbert yet, Brighter with Herbert, he's on YouTube. We'll throw out the mods in the comments. Always do a great job throwing up people's profiles. And do make sure you follow him. So thoughts. Maybe we'll start with you, Mimi, and then we'll go around the horn. Ladies first, of course. What are your thoughts here? What are the sort of thoughts that come to mind after reading or listening to this thread?
I think it's really exciting that we get so much news afterwards and that he's sharing so much news. I think it's awesome. I hope that they will announce the second Gigafactory soon. And if they manage to get production up within 9 months, I will be very, very impressed.
Yeah.
It's an ambitious goal.
Very ambitious. I'm curious to see where, definitely there's going to have to be some new stuff they're going to throw into that factory because the next gen vehicle sounds like a brand new sort of process. And I'm wondering if there's going to be an extended period of time from similar to Berlin and Austin, where maybe they built the factory, but they didn't really start building cars until after really close to 2 years after they broke ground, if it's going to be similar. Bob and Ishan, where are you guys at with this? Who wants to take this first?
Okay, I'll go for it. I kind of made notes before I saw this tweet, so it's without that, so you could see how brilliant I am without the tweet. One thing that occurred to me when during the that very long 3-hour presentation, they talked about a smaller footprint on the factories, and that was one way they were going to increase, I guess, production of the factories was by making smaller footprints. So I don't know if this Mexico City factory has a smaller footprint, but I started to kind of look at the size. So the size of the property where the Mexico City plant is being built is 4,200 acres. Austin in total is 2,500 acres. So I don't see this issue about a smaller footprint doesn't seem to make a lot of sense if they bought a property that's bigger than the Austin property. In fact, the Mexico City property is twice as big as the Mexico City International Airport for context. So it's a gigantic property. Mexico also, I don't know if two factories means two car producing factories or two factories, two different factories. And let me explain. The factory that is being opened up now that we're discussing is just a car producing factory, not a battery producing factory. The issue about the battery is the water, just like everywhere else. So apparently it was like a pain in the butt and a negotiation to get them to approve the factory in Mexico because there's a drought in Mexico also. So in Monterrey, it happens to be there. That's an area of drought. There are other areas in Mexico that were also competing for this factory that are not limited by water. So I'm wondering if the second factory might be a battery factory in another part of Mexico that is linked to a water source and doesn't have that water issue. And maybe the $10 billion that we heard about, maybe it reflects two factories, not one. Maybe one's a battery. Alternatively, since that Mexico factory has to be a next generation platform, because that's what they said it's going to be, I'm wondering if the next factory also has to be a compact producing factory, which would lead me to believe that if there was another car producing factory made, it would either be Indonesia, because it would have to be a low cost, or India as an alternative. And there was a discussion about, and I know this is kind of rambling, but I'm just going to ramble a little bit. There was a discussion.
You never ramble, Bob.
Yeah, yeah, except all the time. Elon also talked about a total of 10 vehicles. And I think you went through it in one of your posts, and we figured out, including like vans and semis, it was 8. So, and it included a compact. So it left 2 additional vehicles. So maybe for like the market in India, market in India, Indonesia, China, Southeast Asia, there's going to be a really small vehicle that's at a really low cost and services that market. Because I guess in India, the problem is the cars cost too much that Tesla makes, and they can't sell enough. So maybe they have to make a special model, downsize the cost, that also might be able to be made in India, that would service that market that is completely untapped, and it's 1.5 billion people. So it's going to be a lot of product. I don't think they could announce the vehicle at Investor Day, and I think they had to do it backward. They had to kind of do it sideways because of the issue about the Osborne effect. Because despite what we say, whatever they do to the 3 and the Highland project, that we've discussed, it's still, the new car is going to cannibalize the 3 to some degree. It may cannibalize it less, but I don't think they could announce the new vehicle because of the concern about cannibalizing it. And what has happened since Investor Day, there have been leaks about the timing of the Mexico factory. And the leak was groundbreaking would be 3 months. That's what I just heard yesterday. So if they do groundbreaking 3 months, we don't know when construction would start after groundbreaking, but let's say it starts within 3 months, and then 9 months of construction, and then however long it takes to get the cars out. So that's like 18 to 24 months, which I think fits. But if they told you today that in 18 to 24 months, we're going to have a car out and delivered, it's going to be on a new platform and new vehicle, I think it would cannibalize the 3. So I don't think they could say it. I think they had to release the information kind of piecemeal, but I don't think they will directly. And I think that was what I saw yesterday. I think they said that Tesla may announce the vehicles they're going to produce in Mexico on groundbreaking day, when they break ground, but they will not do it beforehand. And I think it's just the issue about cannibalizing the 3. So that was a bunch of rambling comments.
It was a lot of really good information. Mimi, I saw you shake your head. Go ahead and give us your thoughts on that, and then we'll go
I have to remember all the things that I want to. First of all, no, I don't think, I hope they won't make a very, very small car, because how small can you make a Tesla and still have a safe car? They would have to compromise in one way. I don't think that they would make a very, very small car for India and Indonesia. They can't be too small and still be safe.
Okay.
And I think it's really surprising that so many thought that Tesla would release a new car at Investor Day. There were no signs whatsoever. Elon was clear all the time. It would be about scaling up It would be big things. I can see that people are disappointed. And would I have liked a timeline? Yes, I would. Would Tesla have kept the timeline? No, they wouldn't. So I think that when the car comes, they're going to do a huge event. It's going to be really hyped. To do it now, it would have taken all the focus from what Elon wanted, how to save the planet. How do we do it?
Got it.
Everybody would have just talked about the car. Now everybody's talking about that there wasn't a car, but
yeah, no, that's fair points. Ishan, go for it.
Yeah, so much to talk about. I think the first thing that sort of came to my mind when talking about Giga Mexico, and like Bob said, the site is actually twice the size of Texas, and Texas is about twice the size of Berlin, and Berlin is twice the size of Shanghai. And so they are increasing the land footprint of every new plant factory, but they're decreasing the per car footprint of the factory. So it's basically it's a double whammy. So per acre, if you can get 100 cars out from Fremont, you can get probably 125 out of Shanghai, and then all the way down to 150, 175, 200 out of Texas, and perhaps with the next gen, it's going to be 250, 300, 400 vehicles, out of every acre in Mexico. So that's one. So I think the Giga Mexico announcement is very much equivalent to like both Texas and Berlin coming at the same time, but larger. I think the capacity, the like end capacity here could be more than 5 million vehicles, right? Just because of the sheer size and the fact that per car footprint is going down. The second thing that I took away was if you try and stitch everything, all the different people said that the General Assembly is going to be smaller. They're going to modularize a lot of things. Why are they doing stuff like this? The biggest pain in the butt that Tesla has at this point in time is the Fremont factory, right? It is all over the place, this huge piece of metal. It needs to be sort of moved all over the factory. There are different buildings. There are overhead bridges, and things have to be transported across buildings, etc. And it is not efficient. I would presume that at some point in time, Tesla will want to just tear down Fremont and build it up again. Whatever, it could be in parts, it could be in one fell swoop. But my feeling is that Tesla will want to move Model Y, like to Austin. It'll want to move Model 3, perhaps to Mexico first, and then just really invest money into Fremont in order to make it more efficient. Because the fact is that Fremont has an upper cap on how much it can produce. And even if, as they're speeding up, it is the most efficient factory in the US today, but still, it is not going to be as efficient per car, or it will not be as volumetrically efficient as in Austin, or Shanghai, or a Berlin, or Mexico for the matter. So there will come a time when Tesla will want to essentially have that flexibility to shut down Fremont and then use that space to sort of have a new set of production lines for something, perhaps the Tesla van. I think we are pretty sure that the van is coming in, right?
Yeah.
So that's the second thing. The third thing that occurred to me is, and from this thread, there are two gigafactories being announced. I would probably discount the idea of India as of now, purely for economic reasons. The fact is that in India, 50% of the car, it's a small car market. It's like 3 million vehicles a year, but 50% of it is below $12,500 a year. And there are decent vehicles, like 150 miles of range, that are available today. Tata has a vehicle available today. In the $12.5 to $20,000 range, there are a set of vehicles available today and over the next coming 2 years. So for Tesla to be able to sell a $25,000 vehicle in a very, very price sensitive market, it's not going to be as easy as much as Tesla is like the ultimate aspirational brand in India. Like, the aspirational brands in India are the Mercs, the Beamers, the Porsches, the German car makers, basically. Tesla is almost as aspirational as they are, perhaps a little less because a lot of people don't know about Tesla. But for them to be able to sell a $25,000 vehicle in India is not going to be that easy. Plus, they won't get those volumes. Like the whole TAM is perhaps less than 500,000 vehicles a year. And building a gigafactory in India for that TAM is just not feasible because there'll be other manufacturers competing for that space in that price point. So I would discount India, but Indonesia is a good idea. There's a lot of resources there. So yeah, that's probably good. I would probably say that building a factory in Australia is a good idea. Why? Even though it's far away from everything else, there are no vehicles being manufactured in Australia, and Australia has like every mineral that's required ever, right? So Tesla really has like an opportunity to grab like 30, 40, 50% of the vehicle market in Australia. Like I'm talking about exit, market share. It really has it if it actually builds not just the factory but the supply chain. So I wouldn't discount that idea either. Then going forward to Matthew's
Can I just
trend.
ask a thing about
Yeah.
India first?
Go ahead.
Yeah.
India, I mean, it's soon, or maybe already, the largest country population-wise on Earth,
Mhm.
and it has a huge growing middle class.
Mhm.
So don't you think that a lot of Teslas could be sold anyway? I mean, compared to the population of Australia.
So at least
Look at
what?
China. No, sorry.
No,
Go on.
you're right. But the fact is that if you look at earnings, average earnings or average household earnings, etc., it's still a third to a fourth of what China is, right? The second thing is that in India, you will find that there is a class divide, like it happens in most places, but that class divide does not play out as similar to other countries in the world as one would like to think. Those who actually have the money, you'll find that their exposure to a company like Tesla is a lot less. A Merc is still the most aspirational vehicle in India by far. And you can imagine, like, people would question a Merc really, but it's a fact, right? A BMW is the most aspirational sports vehicle in India, right? People say that, hey, that guy must be these categories that people put in for people who drive Mercs or Beamers. So I think that time is still a little bit far off. About the growing middle class, the middle class still has an average annual income of about $35,000 tops. Like I'm talking about like right in the center, like above center, right? $30,000 is a lot of money in India. So you cannot really be buying a $25,000 vehicle if you're earning $25,000 to $30,000 a year. It's not suggested.
Can I throw a little quick stat?
Yeah.
So I asked Bing Chat, shout out Bing Chat, how many cars are sold in India every year? Commercial and passenger cars. You tell me if this is right. It's 4 million. It was 4 million in 2021.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's reduced since 21. So the reason I said 3 million is because there are segments of the car market that Tesla is not going to be playing in.
I wanted to prove your sort of like it's
Yeah,
a low
yeah.
amount of cars. Yeah.
But
That's a low amount.
I think we're presuming megas, right? So didn't they just tell us they're going to be mini megas? So not every factory needs to do 1 million cars. Maybe some factories that do 250,000 cars. And maybe that for the size and cost, maybe it'll make sense. So maybe there'll be, we talked about that there'll be 10, 12, 15 factories. Maybe several of them will be like just smaller gigas. They'll do everything. They'll be vertically integrated, but they'll be a quarter the size of what the others produce. So maybe in a place like India, at a 250,000 capacity might make sense.
It would absolutely make sense, but why today, right?
No.
It wouldn't make sense today. Today they would want to build like massive factories, 2 million plus exit loads, and build the entire supply chain around it. See, Tesla's margin comes not just from vertical and horizontal integration, but the supply chain integration, localization, right? If you're building just 250, 500,000 vehicles at one place, localization of the supply chain to that extent is not really cost effective. So it is going to, I don't deny that there is the potential for a smaller factory in India, but I would probably say that it's closer to 2030 than 2025.
Yeah, I was thinking those as maybe more supplemental factories, not the main factories, but you could deploy them. You could deploy them all at a lot of places where you ordinarily may not be able to because you couldn't find the space or the cost or whatever.
I think what's fascinating, and then I'll throw it back to you, Ishan. I think what's fascinating though is that if you think about the next, so knowing Giga Mexico, okay, so let me ask this question: do we agree that Giga Mexico? Well, not even. I shouldn't even ask that question. How many units are you guys thinking Giga Mexico will produce at full ramp? Is that the 2 million, 1 million? Where's you guys' head at for that? You think 5 million? Okay, I'm gonna go to you last. Go ahead, Bob, and then maybe
I think Ishan might be understating it because I heard max build out Austin could do 4 million max in the plan, and if Austin could do 4 million at 2,500 acres, then I would think Mexico could do a lot more than 4 million, and I would think it's going to be easier to build them in Mexico than it is in the United States. There'll be less environmental regulations. The labor laws will be more relaxed. I think that they will be able to build it out faster in Mexico than in Austin.
But isn't that could like directly? So Tesla said 1 to 2 million. So where did you get 4 million? You're saying?
Yeah, when I looked at when I was studying Austin originally, and I was looking at full build out was talking about 4 million cars. Full build out of all the site. That's 2,500 acres. We just did like a spec at this point in time. And I guess in the current setup, maybe 1 million is a full build out. But we know how they go. They're going to go to the 1 million and then they'll expand the 1 million as they expand capacity. So if you look at, I think when I was looking at it, it was 4 million Austin. China, I think, was 3. Berlin was 2. Fremont was, maxed out under 1. And that was the group at the time. So I think based on those numbers, if those are accurate, then Mexico would have to be at least 4 million fully built out. Now, that might take 20 years too. I don't know how long it's going to take to fully build it out. I think the numbers sound big, but listen, they're already at 4,000 a week in Berlin. They've really kind of picked up the pace. So those numbers are going to increase pretty fast throughout 2023, I think. So I really think the numbers are, I know it sounds like a lot, but I think that those are accurate.
Mimi and then Ishan?
Yeah, I think so too. I think they start off with the regular car, and when they reach 2 million, hopefully it's time for the robotaxi, which will use the same platform, we think. So they can do both. And it's a lot of space, it's a lot of footprint, and it's efficient to build as many cars as possible the same. So I think 4 million is, yeah.
I sound like a bear next to you guys. Ishan, go.
Yeah.
For
No, so
once.
For once, I agree.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And if we just look at historical information, right? When Shanghai started, we were told that it will have an exit capacity of about 1 million, and it's already above that today. So we know that whatever Tesla plans for over time, the volumetric capacity of the factory is actually going to be better because the density is sort of growing. Berlin and Texas have better volumetric capacity than Shanghai. I think Bob is right that Texas being twice the land area compared to Berlin, the potential for the exit capacity is higher. Of course, there are a lot of things involved, like there's logistics, there's distribution involved, etc. But with Mexico, what I sort of have in mind is that just the fact that the space is so much, they don't really have to appease a lot of people, like building ecological parks or whatever. They could just completely max out that space. Uh, that this is probably going to be like the robotaxi build out center for the world, or at least North and South America. And then who knows, for the most part, once a car is built there, it can drive itself to wherever it needs to be. So, that you don't have to truck it, you don't have to ship it, it can just drive itself within the continent. So that's one. Yeah. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Bob.
I was going to say, and the practicalities of think of the locality. So Monterey, I think I heard it was a governor or somebody talk about it. And over the last 5 years, their total amount of outside investment was something on the order of $2 billion over the last 5 years. And this one project is going to, so outpace that.
5 to 10x.
That eventually, I think Tesla is going to have a lot of power and authority in that local municipality, because it's a big city, it's a big area, and it's going to be dependent on Tesla as an economic base, to be honest. So I think Tesla will be able to probably press the numbers.
I also, this is just
sorry, Ishan, give me 1 second. I just want to bring in Brian. Brian has joined us backstage.
Oh.
What's up, Brian? How's it going, brother?
Hey, Brian.
Good to see you. Can you hear us okay? Hello, 1 2. Oh, no audio. Okay, let's throw him back out, and then let's see if we can get his audio fixed, and then we'll go. Go ahead. Producer wife's got her hands full right now. Go ahead, Ishan.
Yeah. No, so I think what Tesla is going to be able to do is deploy some of their engineering prowess to actually start solving for some of the water issues that are there. Now, the thing is, the fact that the Monterey region is hit by drought is not something which is an insurmountable problem. Give it 5 years. I'm just making a prediction here that Tesla will have systems in place which not just benefit Tesla, but the entire region, right? Okay, having said this, I want to talk about a completely different idea that I took away from Wednesday, and that was if you look at how much time Tesla is taking to build every million vehicles that they are, 12 years to build the first million, 11 months to build the second, and between COVID, 7 months to build the third million, again COVID. The 4 million vehicle mark, right, is, if you just look at that curve, is probably going to be 5.5 to 6 months. The 5th million is probably going to be 4.5 to 5.5 months. I think that there is a chance that between 1st of March and 31st of December 2023, Tesla is able to build 1.85 to 1.95 million vehicles, just tracking these numbers. And if you think that they've already probably built 250 to 300,000 vehicles already in the first 2 months, there's a good chance that Tesla is going to build 2.1 to 2.25, 2.3 even million vehicles in 2023. So That's the number that I took away from Investor Day. Tesla's going to be building, let's
Okay.
say 2.2 plus minus 1.5 million vehicles in 23.
Yeah.
I don't think I've heard anybody talk about this, but it just struck me, if you just plot that graph and if you calculate the area under the graph, it's a pretty straightforward calculation.
Okay. Brian, can you hear us now? Hello?
Yeah, thank you. No. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Nice. We were just talking, Ishan, we were just talking through that there's a chance. Actually, Ishan, just repeat it real quick. Why am I talking for you? Go ahead.
No, sure. Yeah, so I was just tracking like how much time Tesla has taken to build each iteration of million vehicles. So,
Right.
12 years, 11 months, 7 months. And if you just track that graph down, the next couple of million, for the fourth million vehicle will be probably built in 5.5 to 6 months.
Mhm.
The fifth million vehicle, 4.5 to 5 months, 5.5 maybe. So between the 1st of March 2023 to December 31st, 2023, I expect anywhere between 1.85 to 2 million vehicles being built. Like all approximate numbers, but again, it's just an area under the curve calculation.
Right.
So that brings me to like a full year forecast of what Tesla is going to build at about 2.2, 2.25, plus minus maybe 1.5
Right.
with a margin of error.
Right. I think it's the big concern is that they did say that they had enough demand so that China could be producing at full capacity, which should mean that they've already shown they could do 90,000 per month, right? So if they have the pricing right and that there is the demand, then they should get to that 9,000 there, and then the ramps of Berlin and Austin, should get at 4,000 per week or whatever in Berlin. They should be pushing past those 5,000 numbers up towards those 10,000 per week numbers. So if based on them being able to cut costs and price down to what they need to clear it all out, and them going all out, then definitely hitting those 2.4 million vehicles for this year should be doable. Like if you have 1.1 million, 1 million from Shanghai, you have 500,000 from Austin and 500,000 from Berlin, 700,000 from Fremont. Then if they're pushing everything out, but I think they're not. I think they're still somewhat constrained. There's definitely look at Troy Test, like there's demand issues still in China, demand issues still in Europe, which is holding them back from truly going on, even with the price cuts that they've had.
Let me ask you there, Brian, real quick. So on the comments, wasn't there a question on Investor Day where Tom was asked about demand in China? He said they're supply constraint. Don't you think that's a signal that says 90,000 per month is secured?
Right, but then they just had the wholesale number at 72,000 for February out of Shanghai from CPCA. So they said that, but then the actual,
Then again, Feb's been a smaller month, and there were ramp backups from the New Year holiday in the beginning of Feb. My thing is what Tom specifically mentioned, that the demand that they have is twice of what they can produce.
Right.
I mean, he specifically said that.
Right. So those two the statements that he made about the cars, the statement that they made about 100 gigawatt hours of demand for energy, that means for 2023. So that means both Megapacks and cars should be able to go all out, and just a matter of moving the cars where they need to be, and then if necessary, cutting prices. So I could see another price cut just to totally move the cars out, because if they're heading to this next year state where they're turning on Giga Mexico, they said 3 months to break ground, 8 months to build it, then we're talking April to start delivering cars. And if you're using the new production process with a mix of humans and bots and stuff like that, and making the cheaper car, then again, if the ramp production could be that insane thing, especially if you have that. And something that I and another person, Tesla person I talked with, were thinking about. I'm not sure if they mentioned it here. Is that they mentioned that, or Dave Lee talked to to Tom or to someone saying that they would not be making cars for the United States from the Mexico factory. That solved the cannibalization problem, because if I'm making, $20,000 cars or whatever for the Model 2 or whatever, and sending them to everywhere else, but not the United States and not to wherever I don't want to cannibalize, right? Then, because I was looking at overlap, because if they're cutting costs so much with Model 3, you could get down to a $27,000 Model 3, but then you have this $22,000 or $20,000 Model 2. It's pretty close, right? There's a difference, but it's close. But if you say, okay, for the first 2 years, only in Southeast Asia, only in these other places, until we fulfilled that demand, and then we let it into other places where I can tune the mix however I want to price it, right? Then that solved the cannibalization problem.
Okay. Bob, go ahead. You came off mute.
Yeah, I was going to say is, so I was thinking it's interesting because the compact makes it more of a subscription, FSD subscription model. Because there's no way somebody spending 20 grand on a car is going to spend 15 grand on FSD, but they might spend $1.50 a month. And I think that's going to be a lot of recurring revenue. I was going to say the biggest thing I think about the announcement was it, and I think future announcements, it provides leverage against China. That ultimately, if that China factory ends up being, whatever, that there'll be enough capacity elsewhere to pick up the slack. In terms of the numbers, I was thinking that I think when I was reading the numbers, the projected numbers for year 2 at both Austin and Berlin, that they were on the order of 250 to 300,000. That's kind of what they were anticipating. And if Berlin's doing 4,000 now, I think 4,000 a week as of now, and if they got to 10,000 by the end of the year, let's assume, I think, if you average that out, it's probably in that area of 250 to 350. But my concern is, which is fine. So if we took 250, and if Austin did 150, because Austin obviously is moving at a slower pace than Berlin for whatever reason. And I think Tom went to Austin to kind of expedite the production process. But if we had 250, 150, that's 400,000, 700,000 from Fremont's 1.1, and $1 million from China, that's 2.1. So I think that's probably a fair guesstimate of the total numbers.
Let's do Mimi, then Ishan, then Brian.
I just want to ask Brian, don't you think it would be a little odd if Tesla built a factory in Mexico and they would ship all the cars somewhere else, since Elon is trying to build factories so the distance between the buyer and the factory is as short as possible?
Yeah, so the problem with my non-cannibalization issue is that they do want to get the battery tax credit thing. So
Yes.
so that's another factor. But then they don't have to cut the prices that much, because they can sell they do have differential pricing, because they can sell a car, same model, in China for a lower price than they sell it for in the United States. So they can have differential pricing there. So with the Model 2, foreign lands is 22,000, and up here is 28, but then the 7,500 tax credit takes it down to 2,100. So yeah, but there is some level of segregation of keeping things from a bit apart. But they did say that that they would not initially ship to United States. That was a statement that I think was in the post Investor Day, I think at your event, Farzad, right? Didn't someone there say that?
Yeah, I believe so.
But couldn't it
forget
be
who it was.
possible to just, during the ramp up, that they would just sell the cars in Latin America? And when they have the factory going, then they're going to copy it, and they make one in Indonesia, and they make a line in Berlin.
Yeah, I think that was in that text stream that you were looking at the beginning from
Yeah.
whatever he was saying, that they would make Model 3 in Mexico first, and then take it to the other locations. So in the
Not
end
three,
state,
Model
but
2.
so
Model
two.
2.
yeah.
Yeah.
So or Gen 3 platform. So
Yes.
so the end state where you got everything running and everything making everything, and then all the cars are flowing everywhere. It doesn't matter, right? I'm just in that initial phase where maybe in the few months where you don't want to cannibalize and you want to have more of each, right? Just managing that first year or two is all I'm thinking about. Yeah, but in the end, it's like make them everywhere, make them maybe you can. Yeah, that's all good.
Yeah, because I'm sure Canada is going to get one. I think Quebec will eventually get one. Just when it'll go in the order of events. But it's North America. It's going to be it's going to benefit from the tax issues, and it's close. And the Northeast was considered as an alternative site anyway, so I think it'll fit the category. And I think eventually the compact will have to come to the United States because people demand it. I mean, if the product exists and it'll service a market, it'll have to make its way here. And I think what Farzad was his point was Project Highland, part of what it's doing is to really differentiate the 3 from this car.
Everything else.
And really make it different. So even if it gets cannibalized, it'll get cannibalized less. I think, it's inevitable. It's going to get cannibalized, but maybe we can still keep it as a viable model.
Right. Ishan, go ahead.
Here's a contrarian thought. What if Tesla is not trying to achieve differentiation between Model 3 and, let's say, the first car being built on the next-gen platform? What if the Model 3 remains like a US or any specific vehicle, whereas the next-gen platform is just a refined manufacturing process for a similar vehicle for markets in which they need to go even lower in cost? And why I say that, if you just look at from a bill of materials perspective, right, where are the savings coming from? The savings are not coming from the amount of steel or aluminum that you've saved by reducing the size of the car. I mean, that's a very minor amount of saving that you get. And when you tack on a lot of others, like less number of joints and rivets and welding, etc., all the manufacturing improvements that you're getting, I believe that Tesla is looking to do that with the Model 3 and drive its costs down. Now, the one thing that sort of strikes me is that if the next-gen platform is a platform designed to be a paintless platform, and Tomzu sort of said paint is expensive, right? There could potentially be a differentiation in Model 3 and the next-gen platform as a consumer vehicle versus a utilitarian / robotaxi / fleet vehicle, commercial vehicle application. Because I really can't bring myself to thinking as to why this next-gen platform can't have the bill of material cost in the same, or why can't the Model 3 have a similar BOM as this next-gen platform? Because everything that they laid out on Wednesday is something that they can do on the Model 3 and the Model Y today, right? So, and I think we are also clear that they're not casting the whole body in one shot. I mean, yeah, that would be a step change, but they're not going to do that. I think they've said it. So I can't bring myself to identify what are those step changes between the current M3 MY platform and the next-gen platform. And if there isn't a lot, the only step change I feel is, get rid of the paint shop, get rid of a few more parts. A smaller vehicle might be something that, for commercial fleet applications is useful. And it would make sense that you have a small commercial application vehicle like a taxi or a robotaxi that does not need paint. And then you have a larger one, which which was hidden as the Tesla one. And both of them are basically, one small, one is large, but similar platform, similar, I would say, processes that go in there, no paint, etc. And that's the only thing that I can bring myself to think about, right? So I think that the cheapest model in the US is still going to be the Model 3. There's a chance, of course, it's a contrarian thought, like I said, The Model 3 will probably go below $30,000 at some point in time. Like it'll start below 30,000, and that really is. And if you add in the tax credit, it's 22.5, and that is as low as you can go on a new vehicle purchase, which you actually want to buy. So yeah, what do you
Who
guys
wants to
think
take a
about that?
stab at that? Yeah, go
Let's
ahead.
take a stab at it. So we had that slide where they showed that from 2018 Model 3, that prices went down 30%, cost went down 30%, with adjustments for lithium and nickel and other pricing and stuff like that. So with the $1,000 drivetrain, with all the other cost reductions, that I think that, well, one, that 2018-22, there was almost like 8% reductions every year. Model 3 still reduced, and then 8% reduction every year from the point of introduction 2018 to 2022. So I think with the new developments, that they will further accelerate that 8%, 10% reduction every year in the cost of it. So depending on the cost of lithium and other things, the cost of the Model 3 might be $24,000 now already. And then with the drivetrain reduction, other things, there is, as you say, not that far off whatever is happening with less materials for the Model 2. But the huge step change in everything is Tesla bots in the factory and the modular construction in the factory. If they actually implement that in Giga Mexico, right, and then copy to other places, then the amount of productivity that you could have and the speed and ramp when I got bots working in the new construction process, that perfected, say, a year, 2 years after it's done, I don't know. Then instead of going from 2 million to 4 million, or 2 million to 3.5 million, go to 2 to 4 to 5 in 1 year, go to 10 the next year, go to 20 in the after. Like that seems to be that if you have that level of production from the bots and working that in, you can spread the existing workers out to other places, and then a lot of Master Plan Part 3 is all Tesla doing it. They didn't say it is happening, but if I have a bot enabled factory, right, then, and I have a new process of modular construction, then it's like, I don't see how they don't do 80% of that, especially for the trucks and the mega packs and the big things. They're just getting it all. And then before, I thought there would only be 20% market share for the cheap car, because China would sell their cars with virtually no cost, just like they do for the Android phones. But now I think they can get 50% of that market, and then at the high end 80-90%. So.
And I'll add to that, the current Model 3 does not have a front casting yet, and that's like another $1,100 off the BOM right away. Like, okay, not the BOM, but the manufacturing cost, right? But you're totally right. I would just probably think that they're not going to deploy the Tesla bot in Mexico first, because they'll want to potentially deploy it to something which is closer to Palo Alto, because that's where they're building it. I would think that they might want to deploy it not even to Fremont, but maybe to something like a Lathrop or a Keto Road facility first. I think that day is still a little bit far away, where the Tesla bot is actually, putting in useful work at the pace required to keep up with the rest of the people and lines. Having said that, I do agree with you that, those benefits will come in.
Let's go ahead and get Bob in real quick.
Yeah, I was going to say it also. I think it's consistent with Elon's goal of like mass production. So to service the entire class, you have to have a low cost car, a super low cost car. And the bonus is you get to, if you buy a $15,000 car, you get it with FSD. You have the best tech. So you get to participate in the best technology at a low end. So nobody's excluded. I think that's consistent with the model, that the grand scheme of things. Otherwise, you're excluding people that just will never have the financial means to get there. $15,000, most people, if they're looking for a car, they assume it's going to cost 15 grand. They could do it. And the FSD, again, this is reoccurring revenue on a grand scheme for Tesla. If you sell 10 million compact cars, and I don't know what the take rate would be, but there would be a large take rate. That's monthly at $1.99, $199, $150, $100, whatever. That is just bottom line profit every month, just rolling up. So I think it serves both interests. It serves the interest of the entire population, and it serves the pocketbooks of Tesla.
What's really interesting is that in the entire presentation, the FSD application to this robotaxi cheaper car was not really part of the equation whatsoever. And somebody said this, I forget if it was on the panel while I was at Clive or offhand, like not on camera, and I forget who it was, but it's like, I think it was Dave Lee. He was like, Tesla's like, we don't even care about FSD anymore for the compact car. We've been talking robotaxi, like they obviously care about it, but like in the messaging, it's like, well, guess what? We're going to get to it even without it. So here's how we're going to get to it. And that was like sort of how this presentation, I feel like that was the framing around it, and we can talk about the execution of the presentation and all that stuff. And I think that's what made some people upset was, and rightfully so, that it was just like, what are you saying here? I don't get it kind of thing. But I found that to be very fascinating. Mimi, did you have any thoughts during this conversation? I want to make sure I bring you in before we keep going.
Take someone else first. I have to recap my thoughts.
Okay, no problem at all. Yeah, I think. Sorry, Brian. Did you want? I wasn't sure if you wanted to come in first before I throw it to somebody.
I was just saying that eventually, in terms of the pricing issues, I don't know when or what locations, but the $30 a month unlimited charging thing, that could be a harbinger of car as a service in the future. Because then I can say car as a service for X country, this pricing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it roll in FSD. You don't have to think about them as separate things. It's just like I paid for my phone service. The phone can be a cheap part of it, but then it's a service. And just say this as a service, right? And then the flexible pricing, do whatever I need to do, right?
That's such a good point. Such a good point. Yeah.
And then the stock multiple gets treated differently also, because if you're basically treated like a software as a service, if that's generating a lot of your income, you also generate a higher EPS multiple too. So it's beneficial all the way around.
You know what's crazy? Think about, my wife and I were talking about this morning. I was like, because we were it's rare that Cindy and I, producer wife and I, will sit down and like actually debate the Tesla thesis like in depth. Like she understands it, but she's like, just shut up. Let's talk about something else kind of thing. I'm kind of kidding, but she knows what I'm talking about. But like we were really getting into it today because it was like, I find that if more institutionals understood the paradigm shift that's happening here, the stock wouldn't be at $200. It just simply would not, because you would have a flood of money coming in that would reflect the game-changing nature of what's about to happen, especially in respects to affordability and being able to enter a market for the true masses. And the conversation we're having is, okay, really think about how much you're paying per month for a phone. You might be buying it, it might be like, this thing it's cracked. I mean, I don't know if you can see the cracks. This phone is a disaster. Okay. But this one was, I don't know, $1,100 or something cash, but it's like, I don't know, $70 a month through Apple or whatever, or AT&T if you want to lease it or rent it. But then you're also paying $100 a month if you're an individual for the service. And then you're paying probably, I don't know, $25 a month for the different apps that you have. So all in, a cell phone, a smartphone is not really $1,000. It's $200 a month if you really want to utilize a smartphone for what it does. Okay, a compact car. Go ahead, please.
No, yeah. Do you pay $100 a month for the service? You mean surfing and talking?
Yeah, internet, talking, text. Yeah.
Shit, I'll pay 20.
Well, congratulations. I'm saying, if you're an individual that doesn't have a family plan that lives in the United States, and if you want all in, it's somewhere between 80 and $100 with all the fees. I might be overpaying, or other people might be overpaying. I'm on a family plan, but that's roughly where it's at. Would you guys,
Ooh.
Brian and Bob, would you guys agree that's kind of where it's at for an individual, at least in the
Yeah.
States?
God.
Yeah, I pay, I think 3 lines, and it's like a couple $100, $250, I think.
Yeah.
So
You can get cheaper with
Can I-
Mint Mobile or something like that. But yeah, a
Right.
lot of things, if you're at the premium, if you want the guaranteed service.
Good
I'm
coverage.
happy
Yeah.
something is cheaper in Sweden. It's always nice to hear.
Congratulations.
Can I-
Ishan, let me go to you real quick here. Let me just
Yeah.
finish my point. Really, the point I'm trying to make is like, if I'm paying $200 for this, okay, is it really that far-fetched that if an all-in monthly cost, even if for a car that doesn't drive itself, with a lease, insurance, electric, with this compact car, conceivably, especially with the EV tax credit, will be somewhere between $300 to $400 or something. Okay. So you really don't think people would pay an extra $100 or so a month for private transportation on deck, like at all times? I feel like that's a no-brainer. And so that's how I think about it. Ishan, go ahead.
So this particular comparison, while we've heard it so many times, I have an issue with it. The problem that I see is when we talk about the phone and we talk about Apple and the subscription revenue that it gets vis-a-vis the hardware business, right? These are two very different businesses with two very different ratios. So with the phone, I mean, it's an $1,100 phone, right? If Apple sold it, it would probably make like let's assume a 50% margin on this. So it'll make $550 outright, right? And then if it doesn't sell it to you direct, it's selling it to you via AT&T for $200 a month, of which probably AT&T gets 100, Apple gets 100. Apple is making about $80 a month from that, right? The life of the phone is 3 years, right? So 36 months, $80 a month is what Apple makes out of that phone, right? And a lot of it is subscription revenue. Like the subscription revenue as a percentage of what Apple earns from overall that phone, hardware and software included, is a lot higher, like I think more than 65%. So it makes sense that a higher multiple is given to Apple for its subscription revenue, or at least the allocation towards like a price target from subscription is higher, and therefore the higher multiple associated with it comes in. With Tesla, or just any like large manufactured product, and the iPhone is not a large manufactured product, right? It's a $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 vehicle today. It's probably a $25,000 vehicle tomorrow, right? You can lease a Model 3 today for about $250 a month, and then the all-in cost, insurance, charging, anything that Tesla can make money off of, is probably going to be, like you rightly said, $400 a month. And if you just look at how much Tesla is making in profit just from software as a percentage of the total revenue, right? What is the software revenue as a percentage of total revenue? It's actually a lot lower, 10 to 15%, perhaps, compared to 50 to 60% for Apple. And that means that while yes, we can assign a higher multiple to the software proportion of Tesla's revenues, that percentage of revenue itself is a lot lower, so it doesn't move the needle as much. That's just, I'm trying to put myself into the shoes of somebody from Wall Street. Like, yes, it will matter, but the only redeeming quality is that a vehicle is probably a 15-year useful life, 10 to 15 year. The iPhone is probably 3. So, that multiplies, but Tesla is not at that scale today. And it will not be, to be very honest, over the next 3 or 4 years. The total number of Teslas built today is 3.5 million, right? Till we get to like 10, 15, 20 million Teslas built like overall, historically, I don't think it will become that significant. Brian.
So as you're talking there, I'm starting to think about how Tesla swallows the Apple stuff and takes over all the communication with SpaceX. That basically, when you see these end states, 5 years, whatever down the road, Starlink with the satellites can do all of the communications. You can have a flat antenna in your car, and it could, when they have the ground to direct to unmodified phone with the Gen 2, but that's at the lower bandwidth. But the thing is, I could have my antenna in my car, and then I could have it at the Wi-Fi spot for my house, and then I have direct communications for everything, right? So, and then with the Tesla bot, it could have an antenna in it too. If a low-end car costs $15,000 or $17,000, the bot with 30 times less materials would, be able to match, have a lot of those capabilities, and the battery 3 kilowatt hours versus 12 to 15 watt hours for a phone, 200 times the power, right? And then the computer chip could be 200 times the capability as well. So it's kind of like my next phone is my walking Tesla bot, right? Or 2 generations down, whatever, when they do it. So it's a kind of thing where it becomes like Tesla has to give stuff to T-Mobile and to other guys, and have to give stuff to us, like my Powerwall, where I can make money from it, with the BPP. They need to hand some stuff to other people because of the amount of disruption they're going to do. That they need to have mercy and say, here, you can have something, right? Here, you can have some revenue generation. You can have a job thing, and I can replace that. So I could take it all, but I don't want to, because I know the disruption I'm causing is too much. So I'll give you something. I'll keep half of the robotaxi thing. You put half the robotaxi in. For the Tesla bot, I'll give you half. Or to split it up between other individuals. It becomes, they don't have to, but they would, just because, one, they want to avoid the government regulation and other stuff, because there's this massive, that meteor hitting the planet of impact, that they have to have something. But it's like communications and the Apple stuff is like, the more I think about it, the more, time is ticking where they can swallow as much of it they want, right?
That's fair. Go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, I was going to say, part of the reason why Apple gets a premium because of the brand, because it's treated as a value stock. It's not treated as a growth stock, and because it has a pile of cash, and it probably has more cash than a lot of governments in the world. So it's seen as probably the most stable company in existence right now because of that backstop. So Tesla's never going to compete directly with that. But the flip side is Apple is growing very slowly, and Tesla is growing quickly. And another alternative way of kind of measuring the stock value is the PEG ratio, the kind of how the price to earnings are growing versus the growth. And normally, I think Tesla's stock price would reflect that. But because of the high interest rates, it's not. But once interest rates kind of regulate themselves, if that's a year from now, 2 years from now, eventually, when you figure out the value of the Tesla stock, it's going to reflect that growth rate. So I think right now it's kind of like hidden. So that's really the value of Tesla that's different than Apple. It's never going to be treated the same because Elon Musk is not treated the same as Tim Cook. It's the bottom line. But it will have the advantage of that extra growth that Apple does not have.
Got it.
I push back against that because
he's a lawyer. Are you sure? I'm kidding.
Yeah, it's basically like the the truck domination, the megapack domination, and then with the bots fueling that. With the bots running those things, the margin goes up. Fanny talked about 50% next year. It could go to like 70%. With the bot enabled thing, and then I view that the truck, semi, and cyber are areas where all of Tesla's strengths come into play, and the others can't match it in terms of making the number of batteries, making the range of the car. Like the semi has 500-mile range, the competitor is 250 or less, other than an overpriced Nikola, but Nikola's going to go out of business anyway. And they only made 100, 200 of them. So I calculated if you had semi-truck efficiency for the Cybertruck pulling load, And I can see the Cybertruck pulling 250 miles, 300 miles of range with 180 or 200 kilowatt pack, pulling like 10,000 pounds or in the vehicle, if you could fit that into the vehicle, so that it's a class 3, class 4 vehicle. So the people who say, oh, like the workers who say, okay, the electric F-150 Lightning is no good because it only had 100 miles of towing range, 80 miles of towing range, Rivian and other ones, will look at it differently, that it is the best thing to move stuff, and they'll do it at a cheaper cost. So if they get all of the truck, that's like $1 trillion, $2 trillion a year. If they have a margin of 50% or more, then they by 2030 they could have this $1 trillion, multi-trillion dollar net income, which would mean they swamp Apple. So,
okay. We're gonna do Q&A here in a couple minutes. Any closing thoughts on this topic before we move on to community Q&A? 60 to 90 seconds. Go ahead, Mimi.
Can I say something?
Sure.
I think it's interesting how, because it's so common that we compare ourselves to Apple. Apple is a very narrow company. Tesla is constantly coming up with new products, new areas of products. I don't see it ending anywhere soon. We're going to be so much bigger than Apple, and I think the future, it belongs to Tesla. It's no question about it.
Yeah. So I just brief retort. I don't compare us, Tesla to Apple. I only say that Apple is kind of the company that probably has the best financials, and it gets a premium. So I agree with you, Brian. And ultimately, in terms of the profitability, Tesla is going to be way more profitable. But I still think the multiple might be lower than Apple, just because of how it's perceived.
Ishan?
So I think one thing that we've missed, and I'll just put in one sentence here, a part of Mexico might just be the Giga Mega, which is the biggest mega pack factory that's ever conceived, importing batteries from China, building the mega packs and deploying them either in North America or anywhere else, for the simple reason that you will get part of the credit, you'll not get the full credit, and labor is cheaper. Import restrictions are not that much. Port congestion is not that bad. So it might just be like an import, build, and deploy hub for non-vehicle products. Be it mega packs, be it Powerwalls, be it I don't know about solar, but at least superchargers, maybe, who knows, So yeah, just that.
Okay. Closing thoughts? Anything else? Going once, going twice, and shut it. I'm just kidding. Shut it down. No, we're good. All right, here we go. Let's do some Q&A. Great discussion for those that joined us. So we're going to do a little bit of Q&A, about 15 minutes, and then we're going to go over to the member-only stream where we'll continue our discussion and whatever else comes up during that. Just so you know, if you do want to join us on the member-only streams, just click on join right below this video. And then half of the earnings from these videos on Fridays go into a community fund where the community, my wonderful community, some of those that are joining me today, will decide what to do with those funds. And it's completely up to them. I don't care. If we want to order 1 million pounds of ice cream, we order 1 million pounds of ice cream, and we'll all be probably very happy. Okay, so let's go ahead. Go ahead, Bob.
I was going to say that one tweet that we kind of didn't go over specifically. I think that tweet we could go over for like 5 weeks.
Which tweet?
The tweet that started the
the whole thing. That tweet.
Yeah,
thread.
yeah. I know. I think we kind of talked about it very generally, but I think
I agree.
Piece by piece, there was a lot to unpack.
I agree. I'm actually curious. Again, I do believe he's going on Herbert's channel today, Brighter with Herbert. So I'm sure there's going to be more information there. Each tweet almost required like an hour that came out of that because there's just so much information there. But all right, let's do Q&A with our wonderful community. Producer wife, the GOAT. Go ahead and bring up the first question, and we'll go down the pike. Gino, community member. Thank you so much, Gino. Question. That's why he's got the little cool symbol. What information from Investor Day causes anyone pause or concern? Great question. Ooh, La, 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 la. I almost have to go through the deck again.
Can I say something
Of
while you
course.
think?
Yeah.
I think I would like to know more about the batteries. That's my main concern. The ramping up and the efficiency of the batteries.
For me,
I
it was. Oh, I'm sorry.
go ahead.
For me, it was the $20 million number, because I was concerned in that they said they weren't going to make any modification, or at least Elon seemed to suggest we're not going to shut down any factories to add the new the platform. So I was wondering if that was correct, and if it took 2-3 years to get the next factories fully online, how we can get to 20 million by 2030. That was what my concern was.
For me, it was the surprising lack of information about solar. Right, the only thing that we spoke about was like globally solar deployments are rising by X percentage. In the US, it's rising by Y%, but nothing about Tesla Solar, which got me to think that probably Elon is not interested in scaling up the solar manufacturing business as much, because there's just so much solar manufacturing already being deployed, and it continues to grow at a rapid pace, like more than 50% a year. So from a master plan side of things, that is covered by somebody who's not Tesla, so probably Elon is not interested in that. It's my takeaway.
I don't even think Investor Day was necessary. Just that's my opinion, by the way.
I loved it.
Well, I do have a thought on that. We'll take it in the members only stream.
I actually, so my pause and concern, and I'm sorry, did Brian or Mimi, did you guys go yet?
Yes.
Go
on.
So you sure? Okay.
Go ahead.
And I'll throw it to you guys. I'll throw it to Mimi next. The thing that gave me pause is that I do not think Tesla has the right DNA to talk to institutionals. I think they are way too engineering. They do not like to waste their time talking about stuff that they feel is invaluable. And that's, I think, opposite of some of the language that institutionals like to hear so that they can build their models appropriately. I think, I don't know if that's necessarily a weakness, but it's a pause to me, because I think I finally understand why there's a passionate discourse between retail and institutionals when it comes to Tesla, because I believe Tesla has redefined the paradigm. There's a paradigm shift on what it means to analyze a company like Tesla, because a company like Tesla has never existed before, that they're so willing to get into such insanely difficult industries in parallel and execute. Usually when you hear this, it's like, oh my God, it's crazy. But then they're actually executing, and it changes the paradigm. Go ahead, Ishan, and then we'll go to Mimi.
So I think you're 100% right. And I think that it is intentional and by design. And I'll give like a sneak peek into what I was thinking about on this. This is designed by Elon to take over Wall Street, take over the world of MBAs that he hates. And if you want to get to know the full thoughts about it, if you want to join in on the discussion, hit the join button below, go to Patreon.
Damn, what a plug. Look at you. Very good. Mimi, go ahead, and then Brian.
No, I completely agree. They don't. And that's maybe why they should have that communication department that could do something that was a little more. I mean, I love that nerdy stuff. And a lot of us, we just dig ourselves down in all the details about hairpin rotors or whatever. But of course, for the everyday investor, it's far too technical. And I think it was. I mean, this was better than before, but I think it was too long, and it could have been a lot more audience friendly.
Yeah, great points. Go ahead, Brian.
I think if they had titled it differently or gave some kind of schedule, here's the thing, right? That way, people wouldn't go off with weird expectations about what it would be. It was like Tesla Tech and Master Plan 3 and meet the team, right? Then it's like, okay, now we know what to expect, right? Like, you didn't have to like give us nothing, because if that's what you're planning towards, all you have to do is say those things. Everyone's fine. You do what you do, and then you don't have. There's no expectation. Oh, you're going to introduce and do. No, anyway, that's it.
Yeah.
I was going to say 2 hours and 45 minutes in, when I had my noose ready to end it all, I was thinking, for the investors like we're talking to, they know most of this stuff. So you just spent 3 hours. It's nice, but for the ones who don't know this stuff, they would have lasted 45 minutes maybe. And to the Wall Street community, unless it's in print numbers now, it's all kind of speculation. Gary Black's not going to incorporate any of this stuff into his numbers until there's actually deliveries of something. I mean, when Cybertruck's delivered, they're going to be like a big jump in the valuation of Tesla, I'm sure. But until then, they don't. So I was thinking that. I thought, really, probably, again, I don't think it was necessary. I didn't think Elon had his heart in it myself. I thought there were great people there and it was great information, but it could have been presented in 45 minutes with a 15-minute question and answer period. And I think you even suggested, Farzad, to the real big whales who are felt uncomfortable, do a private one for them.
Exactly.
Go over everything, answer all their questions. That I think is great.
I would have taken that same presentation, grab the guys that are most concerned, throw them in a room, and then we'll do the same presentation, but you can ask a question at any time. And if it takes 8 hours, it takes 8 hours. And you do that. It was a non-Tesla presentation done in a Tesla way. That was really my takeaway. Let's do the next question, and then we'll continue this. I'm sure this is going to be a big topic of discussion in the member-only stream. Thank you, Ishan. You should be my plug guy. That was so smooth. I want to bring up this picture real quick, actually, talking about Clive. Look at these two wonderful guys, Hans and Rodman. I got to meet them in person at Clive. Look at those beautiful bastards. It was awesome. It was so good meeting them in person. I hope in the next event I can meet more of y'all in the community. It was super, super cool. Love those guys. They helped out, set up the entire production stuff. And just shout out to Rodman and Hans. Yeah.
Absolute shout out. I was watching the stream and Hans, Rod, I mean, you guys were freaking rocking it, man. Doing all the backstage, getting Corey and Sandy the beers. I was so jealous.
Yeah, dude. It was awesome. It's such a good time. Yeah,
and
Hans
there's such a resemblance. You look like triplets.
Yeah, right? We look exactly like the same people. Yeah, Rodman and Hans did a great job keeping Sandy hydrated with the best type of liquid possible. Sandy is the reason why those videos are doing so well today. So thank you, Sandy. Thank you, Corey. Thank you, everybody. Question: between Tipsy and Call an Ambulance, how drunk was Sandy on stage? He was hilarious. I would say Sandy is kind of an animal. Like, he can hold his own very well. I would say he was probably. So if Tipsy is 1 and Ambulance is 10, I would say Sandy was probably at like a 4 or a 5. I would guess. He still had a lot of room to grow. It's just Sandy's such a wonderful person. He's so fun.
I think he was a 0.12.
Okay.
He's not shy when he's sober, so.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly right. That's awesome.
By the way, if anybody of you in the audience think that we should put part of the community funds into doing this monthly beer up with Sandy, just join buttons down below.
There you go. Another plug. I love it. Let's do the next question. From Tired Dad. Question: looking at Mexico and South America, what do they need to transition to renewable? I'm not super familiar with their infrastructure. Brian, do you want to take it?
Well, in terms of the renewables and stuff, yeah, they could add, all kinds of panels all over the gigafactory, stuff like that. But I think the bigger thing is that when we convert all the trucks, semi and Cybertruck, over to electric, and that becomes dominant, takes care of diesel, that's 20% of oil. And in order to do that, because we need to have a mega pack for every 7 to 10 semi trucks and every 30 or 40 Cybertrucks to fuel them in this next level beyond the supercharger things, there's going to be a lot of co-built solar and wind out there. And you pick locations like Texas where there's abundance of wind, but you're going to burn through that if you're scaling as fast as they're talking about. The 50,000 semi-trucks for next year is 40 gigawatt hours of power. So that's I don't know, 10 gigawatts of solar. So each one of these huge electric truck stops, mega charging stations for other cars too, but like mainly for the semi trucks and the Cybertruck, is going to require thousands of these things built out. So it's going to be like 20% of overall U.S. power. It's going to be a huge thing, and it's going to be for everywhere. So that goes to the whole master plan part 3. That is the buildup mostly of trucks and megapacks, because that's like 70-80% of it. So you're building with bots, but the thing you're making is mostly that.
Got it. Any other thoughts?
Yeah, I was going to say this has nothing to do with the question, but
better make it quick.
Warren Buffett, Berkshire Hathaway, they just bought Pilot, which is a trucking stop company. It's at 600 units across the United States and Canada, and I think they're converting those to EV charging stations. And it was I think it was like a $9 billion purchase by Berkshire, but I think it's for the specific purpose of creating a EV charging network.
Okay, Ishan, real quick, and then we'll do the next question.
Yeah, so I think it's a great question, because a lot of LATAM, South America, right? You don't really see, in the news at least, the penetration of EVs as of today. But it's still, like, as a continent, it's an entire continent, right? You don't really see a lot of deployment of solar, whereas there's a large part which is in the tropics. It's a lot of sun, a lot of capability. But then you've got Venezuela with so much of oil, and a couple of other countries there is oil. I think what would happen is, from the Mexico factory, there would be a stream of vehicles going downstream to just trigger the flywheel. And it will probably take a couple of years, maybe 3, once the flywheel is initiated, once cars start going down to LATAM. But yeah, I just think LATAM is late to the party, but it will catch up very, very quick.
Okay. Let's do a couple more here, and then we'll move over to the member-only stream. Tony, question. How you doing, Tony? Basically, my super chat. Thank you. What apps will work better on a Tesla car screen than on a smartphone? Ooh.
Well, anything that looks better in the size.
So
the movies, right? Movie type
movies,
stuff.
Tablet apps, but also if you're moving, or you need to go remote and stuff like that. So anything that involves, while you're on the move kind of things, that would be, having that where you're driving would make sense.
Yeah, PowerPoint?
Yeah.
Who would want to watch a PowerPoint in their car? I don't want to watch a PowerPoint, period.
If you're not driving, you're taking a work call,
If I'm not driving, I'm going to take a PowerPoint. Get out of here. But like, you mean for work, like a work app kind of thing.
Yeah,
Just to relax.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Ishan relaxes to PowerPoints.
We're all different.
Yeah. That's an interesting question. Let's do a couple more. Let's try to squeeze 2 more in here, producer Wave. Steven, look at that. $20 Australian. Perfect. Half of it's going to go to the community fund. Look at this. Thank you so much, Steven. And the rest is going to go to the Sandy Beer Fund. In my opinion, this month may be the last chance to buy the dip with Tesla. In my opinion, Tesla stock will never again be this cheap and is this accessible to normal retail investors. Thank you, Steven, very much for sharing your thoughts, community member. Not financial advice, obviously. How are you guys feeling about, do you guys have any correlation to what just happened with Investor Day and the stock? Is there any direct correlation between the two?
Yes.
Okay. So my concern is still with the macro. March 14th, you got the inflation numbers and stuff like that. So if that still is going out of control, that could stomp the whole market. But now I think the confidence and if there's a steady stream of new announcements after Investor Day. It seems like they're putting out more stuff. Getting Mexico is going to be 8 months, blah blah blah. So the steady stream of the hardcore facts that people wanted, then the things that we see will become more real for everyone else, and then the stock should be holding up. But the unpleasantness that happened last year with the stock kind of gives you pause to say, we'll never be cheap again. Kind of, but the strength of the company, like they're going to this next level stuff, and then it should become more bulletproof, right? That if you got 50,000 semis coming out, if you got the Tesla bot in the factories in Mexico, you're making 1 million, 2 million, model next gen vehicles, whatever. Yeah. So then, and as we anticipate that, as more and more it becomes clear that's going to happen, all kinds of next level stuff, 4680s round, it's like there's 4 or 5 things that just like kick it up, and whether it will be kind of like all at once and the 10x, or I don't know. That's
okay.
So let me add a thought. So there are two competing forces here. Number one, the macro. I think we're all we understand that 23 is going to be a wash of a year for like most of the market. And then the second thing is that Tesla's really at this point where it has seen margin compressions like crazy over the last 1 year. And we know for a fact, what the bottom was over the last dip. I don't think we're going to have the opportunity to buy at 100 again. But I would not, I'm going to, over the next couple of quarters, I'm going to save about half of my dry powder for a chance that it'll be 150, 160. But that's just me.
Okay. All right. Let's do the last one. Let's do a quick one, and then we'll move over to the member-only stream. And the last question goes to Billy. Question: if switching to heat pumps will displace more fuel... Okay, let me try that again. Billy, community member, thank you for your question. Question: if switching to heat pumps will displace more fossil fuels than switching to ICE from ICV to EVs, why is Tesla not getting into manufacturing heat pumps right now instead of down the road? I think this is just you've invested in the supply chain and the manufacturing processes for EVs. You've already invested a ton of capital, and perhaps when you came to realize this down the road, you're like, well, the pivot's going to take a while. But how are you guys thinking about this?
Yeah, if they were started off with heat pumps, then it would be easy. But they didn't. So to convert to heat pumps just doesn't make economic sense at this point in time.
But they do have two energy products.
Let me add a thought here. So the thing with heat pumps, number one, there are players in the market who are doing a pretty decent job of making heat pumps, and every new construction in the Seattle area, and I think in the greater Washington state needs to have a heat pump now. There's legislation in place that is going to start the flywheel of manufacturers actually getting into this. So Tesla doesn't need to push the boundaries on this one. That's number one. Second, Tesla is really, really good at figuring out technology, at figuring out how to manufacture at scale at low costs. What it is not good is at going out to 500 different cities and having teams in place to do installations, as seen by the solar fiasco. I would say heat pumps, same thing. Who's going to install them? Are they going to install it to the point or to the quality that Tesla wants it? It's just another large headache that Tesla doesn't want to own. And because it is very, very difficult to vertically own the entire installation ecosystem, you have to rely on a bunch of partners. I don't think that is in Tesla's ecosystem as much. Even though we saw that they're working with tier 1, 2, 3 level vendors, suppliers, etc. downstream, and Farzad, you probably were closer to it than anybody else here. I don't think it is in Tesla's ecosystem to efficiently manage a very large, I would say, community of group of installers in all of these different
unless
cities, and then
unless it's
maintenance.
theirs. Unless it's theirs. Yeah.
Exactly.
Go ahead, Mimi.
I'm talking
Yeah.
about third party. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to. So go ahead, Mimi, and then we'll move over to the member only. Go ahead.
No, I agree with Ashton. I was thinking the same thing when you talked about that they didn't mention solar so much. I mean, they've had so much trouble with finding people to install their solar products. I think they should stay away. And also, I want to say that I'm so thankful they didn't start with heat pumps, because would we be here? Honestly, what's exciting about a company that makes heat pumps? But I
Nothing
think
yet.
maybe they will. Maybe they will in the future. I mean, if Elon thinks it's important to save the world, they will make heat pumps.
Yeah, those are great thoughts. Go ahead, Brian, and then we'll go member.
So I think we need to do a deep dive into where and if there's a big commercial heat pump opportunity for them. Because if you were to go there, if looks like the semi truck is where a lot of the fuel savings and other things are. That if there's a big commercial industrial area for the heat pumps, that would make it easier to do the installation and other stuff, because it's a warehouse, it's whatever factory. So it would be something that might have more impact and might be easier to hit the market with, which could, again, goes to those two new energy products, one big, one smaller. Is have they worked something in there that hits the heart of the environmental issue, and also is easier to attack if they don't have 100 million homes installed or billion installers, whatever.
Gotcha. Okay.
Could I say one thing?
Yeah.
I wanted to thank Mimi for joining us today.
Yes.
And I encourage her to join every week. And anybody else out there who wants to join, the more the merrier, really. So welcome, and we look forward to coming back.
Was it as scary as you thought?
No, it wasn't.
Right? Yeah.
But I'm not an expert. I'm probably a member of the smallest Tesla fan group, middle-aged women. But it's fun, and I have lots of opinions, even if I'm not an expert. So
I love it, and that's why we love having you here. This is why I told Mimi before she came on. I was like, "Don't be nervous, Noah, and you're gonna be in the member only with us." Yeah,
Noah.
you can't hear us. This
Amazing
guy,
job on Wednesday.
This guy produced the entire show on Wednesday. This guy right here.
I can't hear you all yet.
The entire show on Wednesday was produced by this man. He's like, I'm going to bring my truck up from San Antonio, and I'm going to do it on my own dime because I love the Tesla community. And he is the reason why y'all were able to watch everything on Wednesday and watch Sandy get super drunk and spit truth for 4 hours. Corporate streams. CorporateStreams.com. Seriously, Noah, thank you so much, dude. Like, you have no idea.
Thanks, bro. I was listening to y'all on the way. I was running some errands. I was like, I wonder if I could pop in for the last second here. So thanks for popping me on.
Absolutely, dude. Yeah, thank you so much.
I love the shockwaves in the community, and just to see it pop up on other people's channels and hear this forum talk about it. I mean, it makes me so excited to contribute in whatever way I can. And yeah, it was a lot of fun to pull it all together. And obviously, yeah, we had a couple things here and there, but overall, I think, it was a success. And to hear the insights and the nuggets, and for us to provide a platform to make that happen was super, super exciting. And then Farzad, you freaking rocked it, man. It was so fun to meet you and the team. So.
My goodness. Yeah. We met Noah as well. Noah wasn't in the picture with Rahman and Hans that we showed earlier, but Noah was just unbelievable. Corporate Streams, this is his company. Literally, this is why I think the Tesla community is so incredible. It's a magnet of really talented folks, and it was just on a whim, and it turned out to be this giant event at a bar in Austin that is just circulating everywhere. And it's just, yeah, I'm just so happy to have met you and the entire community. It's just unbelievable. It really just shows the strength of this community, not just ours, but just in Tesla community. So Noah, thank you, man. You're the freaking man.
Thanks for letting me pop in.
Of course, man. All right, let's take it to member only. If you're part of the, if you're a member of the community, there'll be a video that's going to come up in about a minute. I'm going to post the link to join in the comment section for that video, as well as in our Discord. If you do want to become a member, click on join right below this video. And like I said, half of the earnings from these community forums on Friday will go into community fund. where we're going to figure out, the community figures out what to do with it. And Ishan wants to get Sandy extremely drunk, so maybe we'll do that with half the money. But Sandy can hold his liquor, so we might need a lot. We might need a couple million. Go ahead, Brian, real quick, and then
There's the super chat button.
Did you want to say something, Brian, before we go?
No.
Okay. Oh, sorry. All right, everybody. We'll see you in a little bit. And then thank you again, Noah. Thank you again to everybody. We'll see you in a little bit. Let's do the outro, and we'll see you on the other side. Bye-bye, everybody.